you so much for your patience and everything as we figure this out.
Happy to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's so good to see you. How are you doing? How was your day today?
It was a long day, but it was a good day. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. I'm glad to hear that. Cool. So let me see. Let me pull up my questions real quick. We have a bunch of people in chat who are also enthusing right now. Saying it's really good to see you, and thank you for being here. So thank you once again for taking time out of your really busy day to be here today. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, happy to be here. I think my mom and dad may be out there too. It sounded like.
So really? Oh, excellent. Well, hello, Mom and Dad. Hope you're doing well. All right, let's pull up our questions.
So you dig up dinosaurs?
So first off, before we get started, just a little bit of background. Can you tell us a little bit about Dinosaur National Monument, your workplace, and why it's so cool to work at?
Yeah, it's a really cool place. So Dinosaur National Monument was set aside in 1915 to protect a large dinosaur quarry. And the Carnegie Museum had started working in 1909. And so the site was continually worked until the mid-20s. And it preserves a really interesting in situ, so in place dinosaur bone bed from the late Jurassic, so about 150 million years old. And it's also what we call a multi-taxic bone bed. It has lots of different types of animals in it. So it has 4 different sauropods, 3 different theropod dinosaurs, and then 3 different plant eaters, so other small ornithopods as well, and some crocodiles and turtles and clams.
It's always important to remember those invertebrates.
Yeah.
Probably should get mad.
No. But yeah, it's a really cool, important site. And people, have been coming to the quarry to see it since it first opened to the public. Even before there was a building over the site, there were visitors coming to see it. So since 1909, people have been making the trek out to Ginseng, Utah to see this really cool dinosaur quarry.
Awesome. And I know we might get a little bit sidetracked here because of all the questions coming in. I know you wanted to talk about FERPA real quick too. So maybe we should talk about that right at the beginning, because I know that's really important to you and you're kind of an expert on that subject too.
Yeah, no, we just like to make sure that people know about it, because some people are completely unaware of the fact that we finally have a federal law that protects fossils on federal lands in the United States. And it's called the Paleontological Resources Preservation Act. And it was passed in 2009. And so it pertains to lands like National Park Service or the Bureau of Land Management or the U.S. Forest Service. And it just helps give us some teeth, both for penalties in case something bad happens to some fossil sites, but it also helps give us direction to protect fossil sites and to do more education outreach, just like this. And so it's a really great tool for me as a federal employee to have this wonderful law that kind of helps better outline things and advocates for fossils.
Awesome. Yeah. That's one thing that we talk about a lot on this channel. It's become kind of a cliche at this point. The idea that important vertebrate fossils belong in museums. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what any of our viewers here should do if you happen to encounter what an important fossil in the field.
Yeah, what we ask people to do, and there are different collecting rules for different places. So before you go, if you're going to collect fossils or going hiking, you might know what kind of land you're on, especially if you're on public land. So for instance, if you're on National Park Service land, you can't collect anything that you find, even invertebrate fossils or petrified wood. Whereas on Bureau of Land Management land, you could collect some of those items. So always know kind of what land you're on. But yeah, we ask people if they find fossils, we really like for you to document where you find them and leave them in place, because fossils have a tendency to explode after they've been in the rock for so long. And removing them from the ground can sometimes damage their scientific context, the position they're in, the type of rock they're in, where exactly they came from, and may make it more difficult to find other fossils in the area. So we ask that people leave those in place, and that you can take pictures of them, and that is great. Take pictures of them. If you have a GPS, gathering GPS points is wonderful, because that's the kind of data that helps us relocate sites. And then sending all that information to paleontologists. So whether it's a federal paleontologist like myself, you can always reach out to one of us. We're scattered around mostly the West, but you can always reach out to one of us. Or your local museum or college that may have a paleontologist, you could reach out to them with this kind of information as well. And they can help you. And we like to go out in the field with people too and see the finds that they find and tell them more about it. So that's kind of one of the exciting things for me that I really enjoy doing. But yeah, that kind of data is really important to collect in the field. You could take notes on, it was near certain trees or the rocks were this color, or, it was this many miles off of a trail or a road. And those kinds of things help us to document the site as well.
Excellent. Yeah. I know one other thing that people can do now that it's the year 2021, it's pretty easy to just like drop a pin on Google Maps or something like that. It'll give you the exact coordinates. So I use that on a regular basis, like talking to my fellow teachers when we're doing outdoor education, like meet us at the spot.
Yeah,
everybody who's watching.
Cool. There's so many different things you can do with your cell phone to gather that data and to submit it. It's really, really helpful. And probably someday in the future, we'll have an online submission form where maybe you could document it in the field and just send it straight to us. So.
Oh, that would be excellent. Yeah. It'd make your job a lot easier, I would imagine.
It would be great.
Well, cool. So now that we've covered that, I was wondering if you could talk about your origin story. Early on, did you have a childhood interest in natural history or animals or fossils? What was kind of the impetus for you getting into paleontology?
Yeah, I always grew up loving animals. I've always been crazy about animals, and I also liked rocks. I would go on hikes with my mom or my dad, and they would point out different cool rocks or plants or things we would see. But I didn't really go through the dinosaur phase that lots of little kids go through. I kind of skipped that for whatever reason. I enjoyed being outside and collecting. Like I collected cow bones and modern things I would find laying around in the woods, but I never really connected it to paleontology until I was about 12 or 13. And my mom, who hopefully is out there, my mom is a librarian. And she brought home a book for me to read called Digging Dinosaurs by Jack Horner. And so I started reading this book. And do you have it on your bookshelf there?
I think I do. Yeah, you come and turn around. Here it is right here. Yeah.
Red cover. There you go. Yep.
That's the one.
So it's a really great book, and it really kind of excited me about paleontology. The way that Jack kind of writes about it and talks about the field work that they were doing and that sort of thing just really intrigued me and piqued my interest and made me want to learn more. And so I read that, and then I started reading everything else that they had in my mom's library. And then at the time, my mom was going back to school to get her master's degree in Texas. And so I would go down occasionally with her. And while she was in her classes, I would get to go to the college library and raid their library stacks, which was a lot of fun. So I was a nerdy high school kid who would just sit and read paleontology books.
I can totally relate to that. I remember the first time I got to visit the UC Berkeley biology library. That was like a life-changing experience.
Yeah, there's nothing like that, especially when you have the opportunity to hang out in a geology library, or if somebody actually has a paleontology library like I have at work. It's like you're like a kid in a candy shop. You have to just stop yourself or you'll go down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess kind of tying into that, who were some of your biggest influences in your journey into paleontology?
Yeah, I was really lucky in that my parents really encouraged me to learn more about paleontology. And I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I didn't have any email access yet. So my mom would actually help me get set up on her home computer and write letters to people. And so some people that I wrote letters to that I actually heard back from were people like Jack Horner, but Ernie Landelius at University of Texas. And he was really great. I'm trying to think, who else did I write to? I have like a whole pile of things that I wrote to folks. It was always a lot of fun to get those letters back. I remember I wrote Phil Curry and he wrote me back, and that,
Oh, nice.
it's just so great to get these letters back from people. And then I also was watching, some of the paleo documentaries that were coming out at the time this was kind of right around the time that Jurassic Park, the first one, came out. So I had the benefit of a lot of these documentaries picking up that kind of energy off of Jurassic Park and making some of these new things. So I started seeing people like Jim Kirkland and Karen Chin and those people on TV. And then Jim and Karen ended up being some of the very first people that I met in vertebrate paleontology. Once I started going to Society of Vertebrate
Compensate you by
Paleontology.
fully funding
But I definitely
your
say the one
dig.
person who really got me going in paleontology is a professor named Leo Carson Davis, who taught at Southern Arkansas University. And he was a really great mentor to me since I was, first interested in it. And he took me for my first dig in a cave, a Pleistocene cave deposit in northern Arkansas, and used to send me books and fossils to identify, and would send me letters from all of his travels. He used to go to the conferences at the Tate Museum a lot every summer. And so he would send me notes from those and tell me about, new advances in the field. And so we still keep in touch to this day. He's been a wonderful mentor. And so it's a lot of fun to keep in touch with him. But through all of that, if there's one thing I learned is that kind of interaction is priceless. So I love it when kids or other people will email me or send me letters. I still get handwritten letters sometimes from kids. And I love writing back to them. So now I have a few pen pals that I get to write back and forth with who are like anywhere from 4 or 5 years old all the way up to middle school. So I always try to keep that in mind and repay that, because I think that's
so cool that you're kind of keeping that going.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, so you work at Dinosaur National Monument, kind of straddles the Utah-Colorado border. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what makes that region so special, especially to dinosaur paleontology.
Yeah, we are really lucky because in Utah and in Western Colorado, we have the right age rocks exposed for dinosaurs, and we have a lot less vegetation than you have in other places. A lot of our rocks aren't covered up by that pesky vegetation, and we have a lot of erosion that's been taking place. So a lot of the rocks are of the right age are exposed. So it makes going out and looking for fossils, relatively easy. I mean, it's not a walk in the park every single day, although I guess if you're in the park, it is a walk in the park. But it's, it's a nice area to be in. There's a wealth of fossils. I mean, Utah honestly has more new.
So you do
just looking at
dig up dinosaurs?
Utah has more new dinosaur finds that have been found in the state of Utah, especially in the last decade, than anywhere else in the United States.
Interesting. That was actually a paper idea that I have, tally up like the number of dinosaur genera from each state, and I thought it either had to be Montana or Utah.
Yeah, we blow Montana out of the water. No offense.
Oh man.
Montana's like, mostly got the Cretaceous stuff going on, and we have everything from the late Cretaceous on down the line. We've got like all the Mesozoic. So
have you got good Triassic stuff in Utah?
We do. We have a lot of really good Triassic stuff, especially down in the southern part of the state, southeastern.
You're like St. George in that area. I know that's really Jurassic in St. George.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool.
Sorry, Montana.
Yeah. We just have like a tiny little sliver of Triassic, I think. And it's all deformed and in the Rockies. Yeah. So what does a typical workday look like for you at Dinosaur National Monument?
There's that's the funny part is there's seldom a typical day. Every day is different, which is great. The variety really keeps you going. It can be anything from
so you do
collections
dig up dinosaurs,
doing ongoing tasks in there, to answering emails all day and working on budget spreadsheets and purchasing and keeping the program going, to dealing with loans or permits for people who are wanting to do work in the area or in the museum collections, all the way to occasionally I get to go out in the field, which is great. Not as often as I should. I can see it right out my window, which is the torturous part. But often I get locked up, and we have what I feel like are really long winters up here, and so that's also really hard to deal with sometimes. Um, but even like we have a colleague that just rolled into town tonight. We're going to go out in the field with him this weekend and a little bit next week. So we're excited to get out in the field with him. And we've already done a little bit of field work this year, but we're just starting to get going.
Excellent. Wow. Now, I remember back in, I think it was 2014, there was the Mid-Mesozoic Field Conference, which I believe you organized. Weren't you
I was one of
driving force?
Yep.
Yeah. So for everybody else who's watching, I know I've mentioned this before, but in 2014, there was this remarkable field conference where paleontologists from around the American West and beyond kind of gathered and visited all these different field sites,
Compensate you
bouncing
by
across the
fully
border from
funding
Utah to
your
Colorado and
bid.
back. And it was incredible. It's by far the best conference I've ever been to. So
we had a lot of fun organizing that one and pulling it off. I really enjoyed that conference. I actually lost my appendix to that conference.
wait, really?
Yeah, my appendix decided to calcify right before the conference, and about a week and a half before the conference, I had to have surgery and have it removed.
Oh my goodness.
So I was walking around that conference seriously post surgery and hurting a little bit, but it was a lot.
I don't remember anything about that. You were just
still
remarkably resilient. I'm astonished. I honestly don't remember anything about that.
And next year, Jim Kirkland and I are hosting the Mesozoic Terrestrial Ecosystem Conference in Salt Lake City, and it'll be, I don't have the dates in front of me, so that's horrible. I think it's in April. You go on Facebook.
I'll put it in the YouTube video afterwards.
Yeah, you can go on Facebook, or if you go to the Utah Friends of Paleontology website, the meeting information is there. And so Jim and I will be hosting that meeting next year in Salt Lake City, and we hope that people can come out. It's the very first time that this meeting has been held in North America. It's usually held in like Europe and places like that. Like I think the last time it was in Berlin. So we've had to put it off a few times because of COVID stuff, but we're really excited to hopefully still go ahead and pull it off next year. So come on out.
Really exciting. I hope to be there.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Speaking of COVID, could you talk a little bit about how that's impacted kind of your job? And did you get to do any field work last summer, or
A little
I didn't
bit.
get to do it.
I luck out in the fact that my husband's also a paleontologist, so we do a lot of field work together. So we did do just a little bit kind of as a family unit with our kids, and kept it pretty low key. We didn't, there were some sites that we needed to get to that we didn't really have the ability to get back out to, not last year. But, we were homeschooling our kids and everything, and so things were pretty complicated. But yeah, as far as work went, I still last summer had 3 interns that came out, and we just had to do a lot of being careful around each other, quarantining as necessary. And then we actually moved our entire museum collections last summer in the middle of the global pandemic. So in July, of course. So we're all wearing masks and trying to socially distance while carrying sauropod ephemera and things like that, and moving things. So, but we got it done, and it was great, and we all did well and survived.
Nice. Did you have to move it far, or was it just a facility on site?
We moved it from inside the park to the Utah Fieldhouse Museum of Natural History Park in Vernal, and they're giving storage space, so we're sort of partnering with them.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's a much better facility, so it's great. Now when people can come visit the collections, everything's really accessible and well lit and climate controlled, and it's a really nice facility.
Awesome. Let's see. Our next question here. Could you tell us something that you were surprised about when starting in paleontology? What's something that was kind of against your expectations?
I think one of the things that I was surprised about is just how tight-knit the paleontological community is. For as big of a small group as we are, we're all pretty well interconnected, which is, I think, sometimes it can be a bit of a pill. It's just like you may always have that one, crazy relative that you don't really want to see, but you spend time with them. but for overall, it's just a really great community of people who want to help each other out and want to see the science advance. And that was, I don't know what I expected, but it's more than I expected. It's a really great bunch of people. So I feel really blessed to be in such a community.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, kind of illustrating this small idea. I mean, you were talking about corresponding with Jack Horner when you were young, and he ran the museum that I used to work at, and yeah, it really is a small world.
It's a really small world.
Yeah. Let's see. Kind of getting a little bit more philosophical here. In your personal view, what does it mean to be in science?
Yeah, that one could be a deep rabbit hole. I guess I like the arc of like discovering things, but also realizing that it's okay to be wrong and just continuing to build on the knowledge base as it advances, and doing that, with your colleagues, and kind of just continuing to build the science up, and understanding that it's okay to be wrong sometimes, because that's how we learn and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that would be kind of my thoughts on that. I mean, it's
so kind of a lack of humor.
A whole hour right there.
Yeah. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit too about Arkansas. I'm sure you get asked about the dinosaur all the time. Yeah. I see we're taking your dogs out. We were admiring that on the back wall there. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, it's a really cool dinosaur that I think, I'm of course very biased. It's a fossil that was found in 1972 in Arkansas, and it was also the first dinosaur bone fossils that were found in the state of Arkansas. And it was found by a man named Joe Friday, who was a great guy, and lived down in the southwestern corner of Arkansas. And he found these bones eroding out on his property, and he took them he had a gas station in town, and he took them to the gas station and kind of had them on display for people to see. And one of the townspeople had a son who was going to school at the University of Arkansas, and he came and saw them and thought, oh, these are really neat. So he asked if he could take them back to the University of Arkansas and show his professor, Jim Quinn, who was also a paleontologist, grew up in Nebraska, hanging out in the Badlands with Morris Skinner. And Morris Skinner and him were friends since they were very young. And they used to go collecting mammal fossils all over the state of Nebraska. So he took those fossils up, and Dr. Quinn did the first kind of presentation and first work on those, and presented them at a GSA meeting, and even took them to an SVP meeting and showed them to like Ed Colbert and other paleontologists, kind of trying to get their opinion on it. And they figured that it was probably some sort of Coelurosaur or ornithomimid, but there wasn't a lot to compare it to in the mid to late 70s. And it wasn't this global village like we have today, where we can just share PDFs really easily, or send each other 3D scans of our material. It wasn't, and who knows what it'll be like in another 50 years, right? So he couldn't really move much beyond that. And then unfortunately he died in an accident in a quarry. He fell and passed away unexpectedly. So he was never able to finish the work. And so when I was an undergrad student at the University of Arkansas, my professors knew that I was interested in paleontology, invertebrate paleontology. I was one of like 3 people in the entire state at the time. And so there wasn't a whole lot that they could offer me. But Jim Kirkland, who I met at my first meeting, told me about the specimen too, and I had thought it had been described, and he was like, no, it's never been worked on really. And so he really encouraged me to start working on that specimen. So I did kind of my senior thesis on that specimen, studying it. And again, that was 2003, so there wasn't a whole lot to compare it to at the time. So I did kind of a early paper on that, and then just kind of moved on and went to grad school and did some other things. And when was it? About 5 years ago, I was sitting at a trailhead reading a JVP, as one does, waiting to talk to people about dinosaur tracks. And I saw a paper in there that Leon Clayson and Mark Lowen had written about Ornithomimus velox and a reassessment of that. And I read that paper and I was like, oh, wow, Ornithomimus have come a long way in that period of time, in like 10 years. And so I started looking into it, realizing there was a lot more that could be done at this stage. And so I got the material on loan and described it. And there was also a push going on at the same time in the state of Arkansas by a high school guy who wanted to name the dinosaur as a state dinosaur for Arkansas. So Arkansas was actually dubbed the state dinosaur a full year before my publication came out. we couldn't time them correctly, which was fine. But yeah, so I got that published a few years ago, and it's a neat little fossil. I mean, all we have to go off of are some foot bones, but there's luckily a lot of other ornithomimid feet to compare them to.
Yeah, very diagnostic bits.
Right. I mean, of course we would love more material, but we get what we get. And so it's early Cretaceous in age. And I was able to compare it to other early Cretaceous ornithomimids, which has kind of led to a second project where I'm working on.
So you do dig up dinosaurs?
An early ornithomimid from Utah, and it's a little bit older than Arkansas. So I'm working on that. And then I looked at some material from out east too, from Dinosaur Park in Maryland and stuff collected in the Arundel. So I'm still trying to get that paper done. I'm sorry if anybody's waiting on it. all two of you who are interested in it.
So you do
no, I can totally understand that too. I've been working on a couple of papers for like 8 years at this point. Yeah, it's the Spinosaur paper that's just been the bane of my existence.
It's the way it goes when you're juggling a lot of things.
Exactly.
So you do
Anyway, we just got what's called a raid, where another streamer just ended their stream and brought all of their viewers here. If you want to say hello to them real quick.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming over.
So yeah. Let me look at my list of questions here. And actually, let me see if I can go through chat and see if we have any particularly pressing questions. I can ask my moderators if you saw any particularly good questions, if you wouldn't mind reposting those real quick. We'll get to them in a minute. But for right now, Rebecca, I want to ask you, what's something that you would really like to discover? And it could be something in the field. It could be like a phylogeny or something. I don't know. It doesn't have to necessarily be a fieldwork thing. What's something that you would like to uncover and kind of unveil to the world?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the dreamland would be to find a like an early Cretaceous ceratopsian, something like a Guilloceratops, like your mountain formation. That would be really sweet.
That would be awesome.
And they've found teeth of similar things like that, so it's possible. But there hasn't been any material that we can say we officially know of. So that would be really great. So that would be fun. Always, I'm kind of a Torosaurus girl, so any more Torosaurus material would be great. I was having a conversation online earlier today about Torosaurus, so that would always be a lot of fun. And of course, more ornithomimids. Ornithomimids are poorly known, and I really like them. They're really underappreciated theropods.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing to me that we have ornithomimid material from all over the Hell Creek, and we don't really know what it is. It's never been studied in depth, or it's just Ornithomimidae sp. Yeah.
And there's tons of stuff up just north of there, like up in Dinosaur Park. They get tons of ornithomimid material. So Ornithomimus is really well known. Ornithomimus is really well known from the late Cretaceous, especially in North America, but not really well known from the early Cretaceous. And so I would love to see more early Cretaceous material come out. Some early Cretaceous material in Europe, I would love to see that get published. Not that but there's some good stuff that's going to be coming out in Europe. So I'm looking forward to that being published. But yeah, I would love to see more of that so that we can kind of connect some more of those dots and look at that, the biogeography a little bit more.
Those are really good answers. Wow. I would love to see all of that. So. You mentioned Torosaurus as well. Tell us a little bit about your particular fascination with this dinosaur.
So Torosaurus was the specimen that I got to work on for my master's thesis down in Big Bend National Park. So I worked on Torosaurus in the Javelina Formation, which is similar in age to later Cretaceous formations that are more well known elsewhere in North America, especially the western part. And so my specimens, I had 3 individuals, and they were subadults and juveniles. So they were smaller animals. But it was just nice to document an occurrence of Torosaurus further south, because there's some of that biogeography talk as well about what's going on in the northern part of the United States versus the southern, and where do you have some of these different faunal changes happening in some areas. So that's definitely something I find interesting. And it's great to see other people finding more Torosaurus remains. There may be some more stuff coming out from up north. The Denver Museum recently got some stuff from Central Colorado, which is really great. So we're looking forward to that publication coming out. So yeah, and we've even got Torosaurus from here in Central Utah as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you go to the Natural History Museum of Utah, they actually have part of a parietal on display.
Oh, I think I saw that actually. I totally forgot. Yeah, I've dug up a Torosaur before.
So fragmentary, but yeah. So I really like Torosaurus. It's kind of one of my favorites.
I don't want to get into like the whole debate over Triceratops Torosaurus ontogeny. You probably know where I fall out on that, being an MMR guy. Yeah, but yeah, really cool animal, and I would really love for more of these to be discovered and published. I know there are several unpublished specimens floating around.
Yeah, and there's even some really big stuff too that hasn't been published. That just isn't pristine Hill Creek material. It might be a little more cruddy, so you got to slum it a little bit in the collections. But there's some cool material out there. So yeah, hopefully more work will be done, and hopefully too we'll find more, more ontogenetic information, because there's got to be more out there. It's just that I think specimens have either been being misdiagnosed or misdescribed, or just we're not looking in the right places. So
yeah, or misdated a lot of times too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't a lot of the stuff from down south not particularly well stratigraphically constrained?
Depends on who you ask. I don't think it's that bad. It's getting better. It's definitely getting better. And so I think it just hasn't had as much work done on it as other formations. So it hasn't been studied as intensively. Although units like, the Comparowitz and the Wawweep, those guys have been like hammering on that for a good, 20 years now. And so, they've gotten an amazing amount of data out of there that are helping to change the way we look at things and getting good biostratigraphic data out of there and stuff. So I think that's going to help fill in some of those holes as they continue to work on that kind of Laramidia area and looking at the different faunas and how they interact or play into each other.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah,
definitely. Can't wait to see what the future holds. Let me see what else we've got on here. We're kind of reaching the end of this interview, and I know you're really busy. I don't want to keep you too long. So we'd keep it to about 40 minutes. So we're going to try and do that. Again, any moderators, if you happen to see any good questions in the chat, feel free to repost those. But in the meantime, I was wondering, Rebecca, if you have any advice to give to any viewers who are interested in paleontology and are considering maybe making a career out of it.
Yeah, definitely learn as much as you can, interact with people. I hate to say it, but you can never understate the importance of networking. So sending emails or letters is really great. Visiting your local museums or local colleges, volunteering if you have the ability or time, or applying for internships. There's lots of different levels of internships. There are even camps that you can go to. So like the Sternberg Museum runs a really great summer camp for kids that are interested in paleontology. So even if you're in high school, you can start going to these things and learning more people and interacting with the field. So I think just interacting, getting your toes wet early on is always a good thing. And just keep your passion about it. Remember how exciting it is for you and how much you enjoy it. And try not to lose that, because if you want to succeed in the field, you really have to you really have to be passionate about it, and you really have to want it, because it's a very competitive field for as small of a field as it is. And it can be really hard to get a job. And so while school can be fun and college can be fun, keep in mind too, it's always great to have a backup plan. Make sure you're taking classes that help diversify your resume, so that if that paleontology job isn't open immediately when you get out of school, you have something you can fall back on and do that can, give you more skills to be able to compete for those jobs later on. So yeah, taking like a variety of classes and just trying things out.
Good advice. Yeah. I've talked a lot about the importance of volunteering and just talking to paleontologists.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I got my start in the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think
and we've got some questions coming in too.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I just know that it's hard for some people to have the economic benefit to be able to volunteer. We're not all financially able to do that sometimes, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with asking, can you support me for doing this work? Can you pay for any of it? If I come out and do field work, can you feed me and house me? I mean, that kind of stuff is totally fair to ask. So never be afraid to be your own advocate and speak up for yourself.
That's a really good point, and I kind of forgot about that. I volunteered when I was in high school, so I already had a roof over my head and was fed and everything.
Yep.
So yeah.
So what are some?
So we got a question from Mini Mama 99, and she says, Rebecca, what challenges or advice do you have for balancing fieldwork and family?
Yeah, it can definitely be a juggle sometimes, especially when, once my kids have become school age, it's become even more complicated because we can't just dash off to the field. We're juggling, school days and hours. School hours are really hard to manage sometimes. Kind of like the wrong part of the day occasionally. And things that kids want to do, sporting events or extracurricular activities. So it can be a juggle. Having a really good co-parent who can help you with all that, I think is really important. And they don't have to be a paleontologist. There are great parents all over the place. And just having somebody that understands how important some things are for you, and having a partner that understands, so that you guys can trade back and forth or do whatever you need. Having that support system is so important, because it can be hard sometimes if you don't have friends or family nearby that you can just call and say, hey, can you come over real quick? It can make things more difficult. With our kids, since my husband and I both do paleontology, we've been taking the kids out in the field with us since they were babies. I mean, my son went on his first camping trip when he was like a month old, I think. And did his first museum visit up at the museum in Malta, like a month old. And we've had our daughter in the field since she was like 5 months old. And we just trade back and forth and keep an eye on things. Sometimes we don't get to dig, or we don't get to do the work we want to do because we're holding a baby or juggling, needing to give kids snacks, or you can only walk so far because you have little people with little legs with you. But just having a partner that understands that, and good colleagues too. I mean, I am so lucky to have really amazing colleagues who are wonderful with my kids, who will, take them and like wander off with them and let them help them. So yeah, having really great colleagues, extended family, and friends who can help us stuff, I think is super important.
Yeah, awesome. We've got another question from Matthew Crossart, one of our viewers. He says, what is something that you always want to share but don't often have a way to bring up? You probably do a lot of interviews, so.
Yeah, I don't know, that would be hard, I guess. Because I get asked a lot of really cool, interesting questions. I guess I like to mention PERPA and stuff, because that's something that a lot of people don't think of, and I don't think a lot of people know what the rules and regulations are for fossil collecting on public lands. So that's kind of like one of my little soapboxes that I get on sometimes, but just trying to better educate the people about that, so that they are empowered and have that knowledge for themselves, so that they do the right thing when they're in the field.
Nice. And let's see. One of my moderators, Claire Burr, asked, What is your favorite thing about working in your field?
Oh,
it's a good broad question.
You know, I love getting to be outside when it's warm and inside when it's cold. That's one of my favorite things. I really love the people I get to work with and the diversity of places I get to travel and of the cool things I get to see, and just that knowledge of when you find a fossil and you realize you're the first person human to ever set eyes on it, I think is just super exciting. So that's also definitely one of the perks. And talking to kids and adults who are really excited about it, who aren't paleontologists but just think it's cool. It's a lot of fun to talk to those people.
That's what I'm doing here on Twitch. Yeah.
Thank y'all for being here.
Oh, Fede215, one of our viewers from Italy, says, did she say Malta? And Fede, I want to say that's Malta, Montana, which is up on the High Line, just south of the Canadian border. I've actually collected some specimens that went on display at that museum.
Yeah, it's a really cool little museum. I'm sorry I wasn't talking about the European Malta, which is probably far more cosmopolitan than Malta, Montana, but Malta, Montana is a place.
Almost anything would be, but yeah. I love you, Malta, but still. Yeah. That's the Great Plains Dinosaur Museum in Malta, Montana, to be clear. So yeah. Oh, and Mayor Space, another one of my moderators, has a question. This might be a tricky one. It says, what is the best this thing versus that thing question that you've ever been asked?
Oh man.
That's going to be really tricky.
Yeah, that's a tricky one because it can be, it can be almost anything. Of course, people love to do the Torosaurus Triceratops thing, and
yeah,
like, oh no, we don't want to.
I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, so I guess that would be one of the things that people talk to me a lot about. Yeah, that's a huge rabbit hole. There's so many different things that I get asked a lot about, but that's, yeah, I would say, or honestly, one of the things I hear up at the quarry when I'm at work is, where are all the T-Rexes? And then of course you hear the constant question, the never-ending, thank you so much, Jurassic Park question of who would win in an epic battle between T-Rex and Spinosaurus?
Yeah, I get that question so often that I came up with a little like chat command so that I don't have to answer it.
Yep.
Somebody can type in exclamation mark who would win, and hopefully I still have that command up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But we appreciate your passion and interest. And
yeah,
they'll never go unforgotten.
Oh, I was hoping also, I almost forgot about this. Can you talk a little bit about Cryolophosaurus and your work on that dinosaur?
Yeah, so Cryolophosaurus is a really cool Jurassic, earlier Jurassic than the Jurassic I work on currently, dinosaur from Antarctica. So it's the first Jurassic dinosaur found in Antarctica. And it's a cool theropod dinosaur. It has this big crest on its forehead that kind of like sits up like this. And it's just a really neat animal. I had the privilege of being a preparator to work on part of it when I worked as a research assistant for Bill Hammer at Augustana College. And so I got to clean a lot of the material that's actually out on tour right now. My family and I got to go over and visit it at the Natural History Museum of Utah last month, which was really cool to see specimens that I actually prepared and cleaned on display for the world to see. And I forget where that exhibit is going to next, but it's been at the Field Museum and it's been at the LA County Museum, and it just left Utah. So I'm not sure where it's going next, but keep an eye on that exhibit. It's really cool. And I saw that they have a new, I think it's a new IMAX film out about Antarctic dinosaurs that I haven't seen.
Really?
It's premiering at the LA Museum. And so it's just, really cool dinosaur to get to work on. There's also a prosauropod that I prepped a little bit on. And this is work that Bill Hammer started, that Pete McAvicky and Nate Smith have continued to work on.
So you do
so who knows
dig
what
up
else
dinosaurs?
will come out of that work.
Very cool.
Yeah,
that sauropod, is that Glacialosaurus? Or is that the Nodosaur?
Oh no, that's right.
Oh great, cool. Yeah. So let's see, we're coming up on 45 minutes here. We can wrap this up if you want, or we could ask you a few more questions.
I'm happy to take a few more questions.
Great, let's see here. Mm-hmm. So Allison3145, who seems to be a new viewer, asks, do you have to go pretty far away from cities to find bones?
For me, I don't, because my house is literally like a 2-minute drive from later Cretaceous rocks, and I can see Morrison formations of late Jurassic rocks and early Cretaceous rocks right outside my office building when I'm in the park. So I don't have to go very far. I'm kind of like in this lucky little Disneyland area for fossils. But if you live out west, it can be a lot easier. If you live out east, it might be a little harder in other countries. So it just depends. The problem with big cities is that they're full of concrete and metal and people, and that usually covers up all the good rocks. But sometimes that also leads to discoveries, like the Denver area is growing so much, and they're finding a lot of fossils in and around Denver. And then places like LA, they're building the new subway system there, and they have found a whole bunch of Ice Age fossils as they have been digging these tunnels for the new subway system out there. So yeah, you can find fossils in a lot of different places. They may not be dinosaurs, but that's okay. There's a lot of really cool fossils out there to be found.
Where I live in Oakland, California, there are all of these different construction sites from the 40s and 50s and 60s where they found Pleistocene mammals. Yeah, there's the train station just outside the Museum of Paleontology at Berkeley. There's a giant ground floor. They were excavating that.
Some guy was digging a swimming pool in his backyard in North Vegas recently and found a mammoth. So, I mean,
it happens. Yeah.
You never know what you're going to find.
And again, for anybody who just tuned in, if you are happening to be digging in a place and you find something that looks like an important vertebrate fossil, Rebecca, who should you contact? What should you do?
Yeah, call your local museum or your local university. Reach out to them to tell them about the find. If you can send them pictures, and more often than not, they'll get back with you and they'll, come out and check out your find. Sending pictures in is really great because, we can't be everywhere at once, but we love to see what your discoveries are and to see if it's something that might be worthwhile to, help you excavate and get into a museum.
Awesome. I've got a great question from Brad D44 here. And they ask, is there an international dig site you would like to go to?
Ooh. Yes, like everywhere in Spain and Portugal would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, holy cow, all that Morrison equivalent stuff.
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff going on in Spain and Portugal right now. So that would really be interesting for me. I think I'd love to travel. And so I would probably not turn anything down. There's a lot of really cool work going on in Egypt that I would love to see and get to participate in. I still want to get down to Antarctica someday. That would be a lot of fun. I
really want to as well.
Yeah. But yeah, that would be a cool place. South Africa. There's just so many cool things going on. I love the taphonomic work that Kay Behrensmeyer's always done around Amboseli. So things like that would be just so amazing. I can't pick just one.
No, I get this question all the time. Is there a place that you don't think has been well explored that could be kind of a new mecca for dinosaur paleontology?
Yeah, well, I mean, just like Grand Staircase in Utah really wasn't well explored until, people had done surveys in there. We have paperwork from the 40s and 50s where people were, noticing fossils, but it really wasn't well explained or explored until, the early 2000s onward. Same with the Cedar Mountain Formation. People used to think that was this barren rock that had no vertebrate fossils in there. And they started looking in the late 80s and there's dinosaurs everywhere. So one of the projects like this weekend that I'm going to be working on is going out to the Mesa Verde group to look for dinosaurs that are similar in age to what we get in the Kaparowitz and Grand Staircase, or the Guha and Big Bend, or Dinosaur Park Formation up north. So we're really starting to look at more of that Mesa Verde group. And this is a project we've been working on for 10 years. It's sort of near shore, so it can be hard to find dinosaurs. We find a lot of rays and gar, lots and lots of gar and fish.
Yeah, the scales everywhere.
Yeah, gar scales for miles. but dinosaurs are harder to find, and there's groups that are both working in Wyoming, looking at the Mesa Verde up there, and down here in western Colorado and eastern Utah. Sorry, my cat's talking.
I hear a cat, yeah. Oh.
But yeah, so I think that's an area that has not been explored as much. There's starting to be more work, but it's also a lot of walking for not a lot of reward, and some paleontologists like the payoff a little bit more than the time. So you get what you get.
Yeah. We've got another question from Fede215, who's interested in Paleozoic stuff.
Awesome.
And they'd like to know if there's some sort of Paleozoic animal or animals that you would like to know more about or possibly study.
Yeah, my husband also, he works on dinosaurs, but he also works on Cambrian trilobites. And so occasionally I get drug out to help him collect his Cambrian trilobites. And I think that there's still so much to learn from the whole of the Paleozoic. There's still so much to be learned out there. And I kind of have grown to enjoy the Cambrian as well, and going out looking for things. And it's always exciting when we find something that's not a trilobite, or when you find a trilobite with soft parts preserved, because trilobites, I think, are kind of like the T-Rex for invertebrate paleontologists. You know, the sexy invertebrate that everybody knows about. But yeah, soft body critters, you know, I think there's a lot more that can be learned about them. We just need to find them and you know, bring them to light. So I think that there's a lot more can be done with more of the soft bodied Cambrian stuff. And then I love stromatolites. So
underappreciated. They really are.
Oh yeah, they're really neat. So I've gotten the chance to work on pre-Cambrian stromatolites, and so I think stromatolites are super underappreciated.
I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. All right, and I think we've had you on here for almost an hour now. We should probably let you go, I think, right?
No worries. Yep. And if anybody has follow-up questions, you're always welcome to reach out to me on social media.
Awesome. So just for our last one, how can people find your work and follow and support you? Like social media, museum membership, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at PaleoChick, or on Instagram at DinoChick_RKHF. Those are my initials. And so you're welcome to follow me on those two platforms. And if you're ever visiting Dinosaur National Monument, please, you know, let us know. I'm always happy to say hi if I'm in the area. As far as supporting paleontology out here goes, you can always make a donation to Dinosaur National Monument. We always appreciate those kinds of things. You can also donate to, we have really great friends groups out here. So Utah Friends of Paleontology has always been a really great supporter of ours, as well as the Intermountain Natural History Association, which is our friends group for Dinosaur National Monument. So you're always able to reach out to those groups too if you ever want to make donations.
Well, excellent. I should also add, before I forget, that as a thank you for appearing as our first interviewee here on Paleontologizing, we have made a donation to the Utah Friends of Paleontology for $50.
Awesome.
And then we also had some viewers get together and contribute an additional $50. So that's a solid hundo for the Utah Friends of Paleontology. So
they support so much great work all around our state. We have lots of chapters spread throughout the state with really great members who do a lot of work for us. They do site stewardship and monitoring. They go on digs with us. They do a lot of tours. They do museum docenting or prep work in the labs. So we really couldn't do a whole lot without our Utah Friends of Paleontology. We love them.
All right, with that, thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us.
Yeah,
appreciate it more than you know.
Yeah,
and
all good.
Maybe we'll talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, I hope so. And thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again, Rebecca.
Bye.
Bye.